We're good.
All right. Good morning. Just want to welcome everyone to our MRPA Lunch and Learn. We are lucky to have Tyler Technologies with us today. And the title of this Lunch and Learn is Short Staffed, Solve It with Software. So I'm going to pass the mic to Lauren, our MRPA Office Manager. She'll do the bios, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay. Okay, so we have Craig Roach. He's an enterprise account executive with Tyler Technologies. As an expert in SaaS sales, account management, and vinyl record hunting, Craig Roach knows what it takes to forge a strategic plan and accomplish long-term results. In his role as enterprise account executive at Tyler Technologies, Craig empowers the East Coast to create stronger communities by transforming the way people experience local government with digital solutions for short-term rental and business license. Craig graduated from Gardner-Webb University with a Bachelor of Arts in Communications, Radio, TV, with a minor in Business Administration. And then we also have Nancy Schmid. She possesses over 30 years of success leading, managing, and executing and launching innovative, award-winning digital solutions that solve problems and promote government efficiency. Ms. Smith has held leadership positions at Tyler Technologies in both South Carolina and in Maryland. Before joining Tyler Technologies, Ms. Smith worked in the public sector, in the municipal, county, and federal arenas. So thank you both.
Great. Thanks, Lauren. Appreciate the introduction. As you mentioned, my name's Nancy Schmid. I'm General Manager at Tyler Technologies in our Maryland division. So our office is in Annapolis, and we've been working specifically for Maryland state local government, specifically for Maryland for the past 12 years. We have a team of Marylanders who work and play in our state and take advantage of the variety of recreation opportunities that all of you offer. We're super excited to talk about emerging technology solutions in the park and recreation space. Personally, as a frequent user of our local and state parks, I love collaborating with park and recreation subject matter experts to identify pain points and look at technology as a way of creating solutions. Later in the presentation, I'll share with you some of our local experience working with the Maryland Department of Natural Resources and Anne Arundel County, where we've applied technology to solve problems. And with that, I'm going to move the conversation over to one of Tyler Parks and Recreation experts, Craig Roach.
Thank you, Nancy. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Deanna. Appreciate everyone joining us today. Before I kind of lay out an agenda and get to some of what we've got to share with you today, I did want to share a poll that we had at the beginning that you were able to participate in and give some feedback on. And just wanted to highlight a couple of these and some of the responses. So I had a couple of questions. What takes most of your time? What's your biggest technical challenge? And then, are you happy with your current Parks and Rec software? So a couple of responses we got back really across the board, for number one, business and admin, and specifically retrieving information from the pipeline, organizing programs and activities. Actually had two responses on business and admin. And then for the second question there, helping residents go online, updating, maintaining software and programs, educating residents, training staff, and cybersecurity. So really kind of a varied response. There's a lot of things that seem to be on everyone's mind today, and certainly we'll incorporate these in as we're talking. And as Nancy shared, she will bring in some more specific examples in Maryland. So certainly appreciate the poll there, the responses, and anything else that you think of or have some challenges or takes up most of your time. Feel free to send those in later as well. So again, in our time today, just wanted to highlight what we'll cover. So review the economic impact of local parks, outline the challenges local government faces with hiring, share some best practice and ideas on how to use what you currently have, and then review the role of technology, navigating change with it. And then we'll, again, pull in some of those specific examples to Maryland. And then again, we'd love to hear from you on what you see on the ground within your agency. So in the day-to-day busyness of our lives, it can be really easy to see other groups, other departments around us and not realize the bigger impact that we have. A report that NRPA released a couple years ago, but it's still relevant for today. Collectively, local public park and recreation agencies in the U.S. generated nearly $218 billion in economic activity and support almost 1.3 million jobs, which boosted labor income by more than $68 billion. For Maryland specifically, you and your peers generated 4.6 billion in transactions, which was a value add of 2.3 billion in GDP, and contributing 1.5 billion in labor income. And that labor income includes things like salaries, wages, fringe benefits, and you employ nearly 28,000 staff members. So just take a minute, let that sink in, and applaud yourselves. You're part of an ecosystem that has far-reaching effects outside of just your specific department. And this is all at the local level. Again, this isn't any federal or state park or recreation opportunities. In addition to just the impact from spending, some other major areas that you have a direct connection to are things like health and wellness, conservation and resiliency, property values, economic development, and visitor spending. So really a lot of areas that impact all our lives. And while we don't really have time today to go into all those areas, I wanted to highlight that under health and wellness, in a recent survey, 93% of adults indicated that their mental health was improved by services offered by local parks and recreation professionals and agencies. And then on the flip side of that, nearly half of Americans get less than the recommended minimum amount of physical activity. More than 1/3 engage in no leisure time physical activity at all. So really when we're looking at the current movement to improve health, wellness, mental or physical of adults and children, your agencies, parks and recreation professionals, you have such a critical role to play with that. So we just mentioned that Maryland, that you employ nearly 28,000 staff members across parks and recreation. And yeah, we hear it every week from communities large and small all across the US that hiring has become one of your biggest challenges in your department and also just within local government as well. Last year, I spoke with a Parks and Rec department in North Carolina that continually struggle to fill their lifeguard quotas. And where I live, the city pools, when they open, the season is no longer Memorial Day to Labor Day, kind of that traditional model of what we think pools should be open. It follows the college schedule, which means pools are typically closed by mid-August. And I'm sure if we opened up for comment at this point, you may echo a lot of that sentiment as well, whether it's aquatics or other parks or recreation areas that you staff. But more workers are also choosing retirement today than ever before. According to an annual survey conducted by the Center for State and Local Government Excellence, the SLGE, in 2009, 44% of retirement eligible staff were planning to postpone retirement and work beyond retirement age. But in 2021, that number dropped to 2%, which means more people are leaving the workforce right now. The public sector is also driving competition for spots, offering increased benefits, aggressive recruiting, and then really just more remote positions available after COVID. This graph that we have here, it's from Polko's National Employee Survey on staff retention. It really just gives us an indication of why people may be leaving public sector employment, but it doesn't end here. Having information like this can help you engage where needed before any issues may arise. And one way to counter these challenges, I think, is to look at specific branding for your department or the entire agency. Several years ago, the Denver, Colorado HR department went through a branding effort aimed at current employees as well as recruiting. Their specific brand that came out of that was called Be Part of the City That You Love. They promoted that online. They printed marketing brochures and then, of course, social media. Those materials included photos of employees with quotes, and they use those employees as brand ambassadors. And really just by taking a couple of simple steps like that, they've now created a recognizable brand that people in the community and elsewhere can quickly identify and have a positive connotation with. And you may already be doing some of this. We're starting to see more and more parks and recreation agencies creating specific logos, having direct URLs to a website, maybe separate from the main municipal site. So there's some movement there, but we'd also love to hear more specifics from you on what you're doing in your department. And then just as humans, by nature, we want or crave affection, belonging, and recognition, to be part of something. And that's certainly something you can offer, as well as a chance to engage the community in that fun and rewarding manner. So again, it can be really easy to look at other departments across the country or locally and really be envious of what they're doing. But the reality is everyone starts somewhere, and those little steps we take today can have a bigger impact on tomorrow. We know often the budget isn't there for a dedicated marketing team, but you can really do a lot without a specific team to push content to your community. And assuredly, you don't have the marketing budgets that companies like Apple, Nike, or Johnson & Johnson have. They'll spend millions to understand buying habits and how people spend their dollars. What you can do, just take a minute, look at their ads, look at their content, and hack that research to develop a strategy that will grab people's attentions. One resource I really like in this realm is a book called Growth Hacker Marketing by Ryan Holiday. He was a former director of marketing for American Apparel. In his book, he really just outlines the process. It's more of a workbook versus kind of a long business read, but he outlines the process for thinking outside of the box to help promote your brand when you're on a shoestring budget. Obviously, social media great choice, as we all know, for event reminders or announcements, as well as doing any type of newsletters, or program guides for what's upcoming in the season. And then many municipal content management systems, basically your municipal website, they'll typically also have email or newsletter functionality, as well as calendar options to really get stuff out there for the public. And then there are specific recreation management software platforms that can provide the email, text, and even voice notifications with tracking of opens and delivery. We may think we're over announcing something, that we're doing it too much, but how often are you getting feedback from the community that they never heard about an event or were able to sign up for something? Another question we often hear is, what content should we be putting out there? My response is anything and everything. Think about what makes your area unique: a wine or distillery trail, any historical sites, maybe connections to a famous birthplace or well-known artists. And then what are some ways you can engage a community for assistance? I really love those design and renovation shows that they'll take over a block or an entire community to help revitalize the area. And one way that those shows really always seem to excel is rallying that community support to help paint the mural or clear out the overgrown lot. So don't discount what the community is willing to do with an effective campaign for volunteers. And then many school and civic groups need volunteer hours, which is something to take advantage of as well. And then just a couple other quick practical ideas that you can include in maybe parks or green or open space areas, those book stops where you take sections of book, space them out so that kids or other people can read that book as they go through the path or the greenway, or those fitness signs where every so often you're doing a mini workout to be active. And then one of my favorite things, QR codes, also just a very powerful and in my opinion, underused way to help connect the community back to that branded website you have or social media pages. And then you may even want to use that QR code to link back to a newsletter sign up. And so you can kind of begin to grow a database of contacts, which then you can use to communicate back to them of upcoming registration periods, fun events, volunteer opportunities. And really people just love challenges, contests, and then the rewards that come with it. If you think or look at the success of Fitbit or Apple Fitness, they provide those virtual badges for accomplishing certain milestones like miles walked or floors climbed. Even for me, just a little virtual badge is kind of fun to see that, hit in the app. And then even for our own kids, over the summer, they did a reading program at their local library. Part of that incentive was just a little brag tag. It's just a little plastic tag with different designs and fun color schemes. They can put that on a book bag or a keychain. Just a small but effective way just to instill that reward system. And another great example I love is in Portland, Maine. They actually created a Google Maps route of their city parks as a way to visit and really highlight areas in the city for public awareness. And we've seen many agencies starting hiking challenges or scavenger hunts, really to let the public find areas that maybe they didn't know were there. as well as spotlight those less visited areas. So taking on a new software purchase is always a daunting task. If I were in your position, I'd almost rather buy a vehicle from a dealership than vet software providers. However, going into the process with a few key questions defined can help your department immensely. The ones I've outlined here today, really just some guidelines that you can then modify for your specific agency needs. So our first one here is, who is the vendor? And by this, I mean more than just their name, a client list, or a reference list, their physical location. Start to dig a little deeper into that. So maybe, are they public or private? Is there private equity backing them? Were they acquired in a way that makes sense long-term for the clients, or is it maybe just part of a portfolio to flip? And then what is, maybe they're standing in the marketplace. Every vendor starts somewhere, but what has that journey been like for that specific vendor? The second one here, what is the roadmap? Roadmap's kind of a fun buzzword in the software world. It really refers or means the direction and future development of the software. So is that vendor creating software in a vacuum, just in-house, or they have insight from the market, taking direction from the market they serve? And then maybe how often are those updates made to the software? Not every customer request makes it in, but really what helps drive that roadmap of product changes? Is it, again, feedback from customers, technology trends, or is it maybe determined by a board totally outside of Parks and Recreation? Third one, kind of big question, what are your biggest challenges? And then maybe what are the top priorities with that? I like to say that software is a lot like ice cream. Everyone has their favorite flavor and the different mix-ins. It's very likely that no vendor will meet 100% of every need. However, start to maybe prioritize your agency needs for the biggest impact. It might be really cool to have an app that tracks ant farms at the parks, but what's the benefit of that for the community and the agency? Maybe there is, we just haven't discovered it yet, but think about what will have an impact. And then if you aren't sure what your priorities are, it can be good to go through an exercise where you gather your team, have everyone put some ideas on post-it notes, put those on a board, then start to group those notes by different areas and see what the most common overlaps are. And then, of course, aligning to a current master plan or direction from the municipality is also key. And then last kind of big question here, what am I replacing? And I meaning you. So whether it's a manual process where paper or even Excel is involved, or an existing software, evaluate your current workflow to see if it passes a simple test. Is this determined by the process or the business needs? In other words, have we implemented a process due to the way things are and have always been, and potentially limitations of the software, or have we adapted as technology allows us to push that envelope and reduce steps? I like to talk about muscle memory a lot with agencies. Our brain, as complex as it is, always wants to conserve calories by following the path of least resistance. So we start to get used to the process, the mouse clicks, the movement to produce an outcome. Not wanting to change, but often that process can be streamlined and reduced by updating to the latest technology. Again, these are just a few launch points for any major software or capital purchase. The bigger idea here is that you have the power to help drive the marketplace, demand the tools needed to be effective in your role, and to increase productivity across your agency. So far today, our discussion has sought to highlight how valuable and important to the community the work you do on a daily basis is, address those challenges faced with staffing, give some ideas to start engaging the community, and acknowledge the role and value of technology in our lives. And then, really big question, where do we go from here? A year ago, this talk would likely have included more COVID relevant discussion and how we pivot coming out of having low participation in programs. There's no doubt the pandemic certainly shaped a lot of the way we do things today, but has also prepared us to be more nimble, more creative, and more understanding. And we should be well prepared to handle the next big thing, whatever that may be. So now let me turn over to Nancy to share some specifics on what she's done with several groups in Maryland related to technology.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Craig. And before we get specifically to Maryland, I do want to talk a little bit more, maybe in depth, just about technology in the park and recreation space. So we know data tells us, but you can tell us from your own experiences that while the COVID restrictions for indoor spaces have ended, participation in outdoor recreation just continues to explode. Nationwide, in 2021, the data tells us that 54% of Americans ages 6 and over participated at least once in outdoor recreation. It's the highest number of participation on record, gaining a net total of 3.5 million participants just in 2021. So the question becomes, how do recreation and park staff manage and promote community opportunities to participate in recreation activities and visit the outdoor spaces? Technology should make life easier for both government staff and the communities that they serve. But I think in many instances, especially in the park and recreation space, while technology has served the communities, some of that may have been at the expense of government. And so, Craig, if you'll go to the next slide. We know all of you take pride in the jobs that you do in the park and recreation space, and the role that Craig talked about just how it enhances our physical, social, and mental health. And it's usually, in surveys, it's one of the most important factors in how livable a community is that role in park and recreations. And without question, technology investments can play and should play a major factor in the community's outreach. So if you just look at some of the technology that we have on this list on this slide, could you even have imagined just 5 years ago that we're now in a place to offer virtual sports, augmented reality experiences, and live streaming of sporting events that create safe, healthy, and thriving park and recreation services, both at the parks and in somebody's home? But what you may be thinking is, yes, these offerings are great, and they're great for the communities that they serve. But again, based on the poll feedback that we receive, it's often at a cost to staff because they're offered through disparate vendors, and the overhead for continuing to manage more and more platforms just becomes cumbersome. So, Craig, if you go to the next slide, please. So for too long, parks and recreation management solutions have been fragmented, and staff, frankly, are spending too much time on administration, as discussed in the poll results. But what we're seeing now are investments in technology solutions and even vendor partnership approaches that are available to simplify program management so that solutions exist all in the same ecosystem. These integrated technology solutions will ultimately lower your administrative costs and improve the online experience. With sort of this list of a la carte options that you see on this slide to find the best fit for each unique department, because we know one size does not fit all. So some of the key benefits on centralizing operational tasks to improve operations and the citizen experience include reservations for recreation facilities. So whether that's a pavilion or a mooring ball or a boat ramp, access to gyms, an ice skating rink, aquatic centers, or just simply guaranteeing entry into a park. Freeing up staff time by using QR codes or near field communication for self-service or quick verification of a reservation. Activity registration and league management that manages the full life cycle of that league, from sign up to changes that are made throughout that league season. Secure and integrated payment processing, and it could be online, it could be through your mobile device, it could be point of sale, or even setting up kiosks for people to make and pay for reservations or for other recreational activities, and being able to accept alternate payment types, including PayPal, Apple Pay, and Google Pay. And then having the real-time data insights to track and manage your revenue, your demographics, and other trends. to understand what's happening in your parks. And then having built-in marketing and notifications to promote programs, or even to just alert customers who perhaps signed up for a day pass, and the park needs to unexpectedly close for a weather event or some other reason. So the idea is that technology and re-envisioning technology solutions to reside in the same ecosystem and leveraging vendors that have strategic partnerships can help the park deliver a more seamless and fully integrated user experience, regardless of how they want to interact with you, whether that be online, in person, or through a mobile device. So in the next slide, what I've set up is basically intended to be really a simple illustration of how technology can be applied to functionality that exists in absolutely every single park, and that's vehicle entry. And so there are typically three ways that this is managed. You can have staffed entry, you can have limited staff, or maybe it's a hybrid approach, and you man the booth during maybe some busy times, and then but they're not in the booth all day, or you simply have 100% unmanned locations. So even with staffed entry, you can create efficiencies by validating at that point of entry. And so some of the technology solutions for staffed entry that you may be able to apply is having some sort of point of sale module for fee collection and annual pass scanning, or a mobile app that you have at your point of entry, where you can go ahead and scan those prepaid digital passes. Or fast pass lanes is gaining a lot of popularity, where there's basically two lines into the park, and so anyone who's bought their pass in advance can go to the fast pass lane. They can be validated by a camera or scanner, while anyone who's not bought their entry pass or obtained, I shouldn't always say bought, because I know some entries are at no cost, but somebody who's not obtained that entry pass, there's a second lane that handles just that traffic. Technology solutions, and really a lot of times in this limited staff scenario, when your booth isn't manned, or these unmanned parks, or after hours, lots of technology solutions, including allowing citizens to obtain a digital pass either in advance or once they arrive at the park. And then staff who are out in the field could use a mobile device to do something as simple as verifying a park pass by scanning the license plate. Or entry validation could be used, again, using cameras or scanners. And you can also apply an enforcement component. So, for example, the Maryland MVA offers a program at no cost to government agencies, where you could submit a license plate and it returns the results of the address where the vehicle is registered. It's technology that's commonly used for traffic camera citations, and could be leveraged by Parks and Recreation to issue a citation or invoice in those instances where there should have been an entry fee paid, to be able to invoice those visitors after the fact. And then unmanned, again, I think there's again technology, license plate readers, using cameras that track the entry and exits, applying that law enforcement component. Or one solution that we've actually leveraged here in Maryland is its gate access. It's a combination lock, and part of the information that the park pass holder gets as part of that park pass is what that combination is for that lock. So a lot of ways that technology again can help with that with operations. And so, Craig, if you go to the next slide, this is a particular use case for Anne Arundel Recreation and Parks. So I want to talk a little bit about the technology solution that your peers have used to solve capacity closures, address residential concerns, and really help their staff in the process. And so there's 2 parks in Anne Arundel that specifically come to mind for this use case. So the first park was a park that had a really, really small parking lot and was struggling with capacity closures. There were just more visitors than they could handle for parking. To make matters worse, this park was kind of nestled in a residential neighborhood, and you actually had to drive through the neighborhood, and cars were blocking the streets, kind of forming this line while they were waiting for somebody to leave so they could get into the park. And limited staff resources that had to spend the bulk of their time and energy when the park hit that capacity level. Their time and energy was spent turning cars around instead of doing more important day-to-day activities that they could have been doing within that park. And then the second park that comes to mind in their system was one of their parks. They issue a limited number of monthly passes, and there's always been more interest in getting those monthly passes than what parking they had available. And so once a month, there was another park location that they used that they would sell those monthly passes, and it was sort of first come, first serve. And so the night before the morning that those passes were going to be sold, literally cars would park overnight on the side of the road that led into the park, but also was the main road into a residential neighborhood. So the technology solution was kind of two components. First was the education component. At Anne Arundel, Recreation and Parks launched, a social media campaign to promote the Park Pass solution, and they also posted information on their website and in their weekly newsletters. And then the second piece was the technology solution, which was really to pilot this park reservation system. And so what it did, the business rules were pretty simple. Offer a reservation system that people could access either on their computer, on their mobile device, or call a number to make that reservation. That allowed the parks to control the number of visitors per day or per month in that second park example. And eliminate in that second park example where the passes were fee-based. In the first park, they were not fee-based, but to eliminate staff having to manage payments and that unmanned entry into that park by including the lock combination as a part of that monthly pass. So Craig, if you'll go to this next slide, let's talk a little bit about the results and some of the ways that applying technology solved their problem. First, it decreased conflicts with the neighbors who absolutely now endorse the Park Pass program. It better manages visitor expectations and it has increased customer satisfaction. And if you'll notice on the bottom of this slide, I actually just copied a couple of Google reviews from one of the parks. Like people that are visiting this park are actually leaving Google reviews endorsing this Park Pass system, and that it has promoted a better experience for them as they visited that park. And I just think that's just super cool. It's also reduced stress on staff, right? Instead of dealing with conflict and turning potential visitors around, they get to engage with the visitors in the park and have less of that traffic headache that they were dealing with. They also have data analytics to make data-driven decisions now. And some of those analytics actually include collecting customer feedback from the users that are using the system to rate their satisfaction with this pass system. And I would say overwhelmingly, since the pilot's been launched in 2021, it's been an overwhelming success. So for example, the first park that we talked about, 97.7% of the customers have responded with a satisfaction rating and with 98.9% recommending this pass service as an option for other parks. So the net result is, I really believe that technology solution can help create equity in parks and access to parks and recreation, and create a better community experience inside and outside of the parks, while eliminating a lot of the overhead that goes with the day-to-day management of the parks and the recreation programs. And with that sentiment, I'll close things out and love to open up for any questions that anyone may have.
No question, but this resonates with me a lot for sure. With all the changes we've been through.
I appreciate hearing that. It's Parks and Recreation, has really been an early adopter with a lot of technologies to make sure that the community is engaged, but it's really been at a cost because it's all been very siloed. And, I would be curious, we should have asked a poll question and just said, how many different software systems are you having to work on, in a normal week? I think that would be an interesting answer.
Yeah, for us, it was all at the same time too. Me personally, switching from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, and then of course our new website and management database, switching from one to another. So it definitely is time consuming for sure, but you also have to take the time to learn it so you can better service your members. At least in regards to MRPA, I know for the agencies and the community workers, a little different. But.
Right.
Well, I love that example too that Nancy shared. The use case for the park entry, that's also applicable for programs. So we talked to a lot of agencies that maybe their previous summer camp registration was everybody line up at 3 a.m. to get access to having their kids register for summer camp. Well, now we're moving that to software, so it eliminates that, and then having the software have the capacity to handle a lot of people hitting the website at once, and then generate wait lists from that. So we think park entry, but there's also program management of that as well.
That is exactly what I was going to talk about, Craig. And it's funny now because I'm transitioning from mostly working inside of a facility to working out in parks and in fields. And so everything that Nancy was talking about, I'm just like, how does it apply to facilities? Oh, I get it. And so recently we had to case justify changing our facility hours. This technology would have been very helpful if I had it right just at the entrance to our parking lot. But still, I had to pull data and I had to try to collect that information from staff report based on how many people are using it the first hour and the last hour. But I think about rentals. I think about staffing ratios for before care for camps. So it's easy too with parks and with fields. But I like how you can use it indoors and for facilities as well. So perfect. I know in Maryland, we have small agencies, medium-sized agencies, and large agencies. And I know typically our budget cycles run a little bit differently. Is this type of technology something that those smaller and maybe medium-sized agencies can afford?
Great question. It's kind of like Goldilocks. We know there's varying sizes of everything, and that's kind of the beauty now of SaaS or hosted or cloud-based software, that you're not locked into something that is going to restrict you. So it really is scalable. So a small agency may have certain needs specific to their area, larger one the same way. So we do look at a lot of factors, their size, staff, users, that type of thing, but it really is scalable. So a small agency is not going to pay the same thing a large agency would. It's going to be scalable based on their size, which can help with that budgeting and future requests.
Right. So it's not flat pricing. It's not we don't care if you're the largest or the smallest. It's a one size. It's not that at all. We also try to get clever with the funding where we can. Technology is only great if we can find a way for it to be leveraged. And we're mindful of that. And so again, it's sometimes it's a combination. Maybe it's a smaller upfront fee, and then we work out something, some sort of transaction based model, and do a combination of two approaches. There's a lot of different ways to look at funding technology solutions. And so I don't think, if somebody just want to have a conversation, like, they shouldn't be scared off because they think it's just, because it's, a single platform that has a lot of different modules. They shouldn't be scared off that and not have a conversation because they think, well, there's no way we could afford it. I think agencies would be surprised how affordable this solution can be.
Awesome. I thought of another question.
Awesome.
And I'm thinking about things that are going on currently. So we had a festival this past Saturday at a park that's, within my agency, but it's not our normal working place. Of course, we had paid tickets, just like you were saying. And then we also had a number of different partnerships and sponsorships and comp tickets through those. I wonder if some people, they don't want to make the full financial commitment right out, and they want to test the system. In hindsight, right, it would have been a good day for us to have some type of Tyler Technology software there where we could get a true number on the number of attendees. We know that it would include vendors, entertainment, and all of those people, but we were having a hard time quantifying the actual number. And all we had was our software number of paid tickets in the system.
Yeah, another great question. So you're kind of looking at, is there a pilot or a demo phase? Is that what it sounds like? Yeah, and that can be feasible, can be possible depending on the scenario. Sometimes a lot of the stand up with the software does involve training and kind of launching of a platform specific to the agency. But there are scenarios where we could look at the use case, look at the pilot phase, and that could be part of kind of the initial will it work for us type of solution.
Awesome. Did we see the slide that has you all's contact information on it?
I don't know that we have a slide with our contact information on it.
Probably we do. I don't think so.
Okay, let's go ahead and just add it here so that folks, if they're interested, they have a way to reach you directly with their questions.
Perfect. Yeah, my email is pretty simple. It's craig.roach, CRAIG.ROACH at tylertech.com. And then you can always call me 336-899-6730.
Yep. And mine's also very simple. Nancy.Schmid, SCHMID at tylertech.com. And my number is 443-852-1329. And, we can have a phone conversation. We can also have an in-person visit and sit down since we are here in Maryland. And any excuse to go to a park, sign me up.
That's awesome.
And
right.
like Nancy said, the conversation is really the key piece, because going away from this thinking, well, it's probably not going to be a fit for me. Well, let's have a conversation to see what are areas that you can pull in together into one software, or again, kind of reduce those processes or steps. So conversation never hurts. We'd love to have it.
Yeah, don't rule out Tyler Tech.
Technology should do no harm, and that's kind of the mantra, at least we live by. And I promise you, I have always operated with the mindset, if really we don't think it's a good fit, we're not going to try to sell you something just for the sake of selling it. It's not good for your reputation. It's not good for our reputation. And, if we sit down and have a conversation and it's just not the right fit, we will tell you.
Awesome.
Well said.
Well, On behalf of the Maryland Recreation Parks and Association, I just want to thank you guys again. I'm sorry, Training and Education Committee. I want to thank you guys again for this presentation. It was very helpful and very informative. All of those slides in the beginning, I know I'll be reviewing it, just the different ways to really reach more people, whether you decide that technology is your answer or not. So I love that. And then I think that's it for today. Lauren, did we have anything else?
No, this was great. Thank you so much.
We appreciate your time. We appreciate our partnership with MRPA, and already looking forward to April.
Yes, we are too. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.